My new boss said he felt bad that I was denied a promotion, then started asking me to help with his side hustle. I've always been a company guy. Show up on time, put in the hours, exceed expectations. That's always been my MO. So, when I found out I was passed over for the promotion to senior marketing manager, it felt like a gut punch. Years of dedication, late nights, successful campaigns, and it all amounted to nothing. The role went to someone from outside the company, some hotshot with an MBA and a flashy resume. I was told that I was too valuable in my current role, that they couldn't afford to lose me. Standard corporate BS. My name is David, I'm 34, and up until that moment, I genuinely believed in the meritocracy myth. I thought hard work and loyalty were enough to get you ahead. I was wrong. The sting of disappointment was quickly followed by something else: guilt. I have a wife and two young kids to support. A mortgage, bills, college funds. The responsibilities were real. I couldn't afford to dwell on the injustice of it all. I had to suck it up, put on a smile, and keep grinding. Then came Mark, my new boss. He was hired a week after I was passed over, ostensibly to shake things up and bring fresh perspectives. Mark was charismatic, energetic, and full of buzzwords. He wore tailored suits, drove a fancy sports car, and had this uncanny ability to make everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. He was everything I wasn't: confident, assertive, and effortlessly charming. On his first day, Mark called me into his office. He closed the door, leaned back in his chair, and gave me a long, appraising look. "David," he said, his voice low and sincere, "I heard what happened with the senior manager role. I just want you to know, I think it's bullshit. You deserve that promotion. You've got the experience, the work ethic, and the respect of the team. They made a mistake, and I want you to know that I see your value." His words were like balm to a raw wound. I'd been bracing myself for a new boss who would dismiss my contributions, who would favor the hotshot outsider who'd landed the promotion. Instead, I was getting validation, empathy, and a genuine sense of understanding. "Thanks, Mark," I said, feeling a surge of gratitude. "I appreciate that. It means a lot." He smiled, a disarming, genuine smile. "Look, David, I'm not going to pretend I can undo what happened. But I can promise you this: I'm going to make sure your talents are recognized. I'm going to give you opportunities to shine, to prove what you're capable of. And I'm going to fight for you when the next promotion cycle comes around." He then started to ask about things he could do to make my job better. After a bit, he said, "You don't mind if I ask you something kind of out there, do you?" I said I wouldn't mind, and that's when he started. Mark was a side hustler, as he put it, a guy who was always juggling multiple projects, always looking for new ways to make money. He was renovating and flipping houses. The one he was working on now, Mark explained, had really gotten away from him, and he had so many different commitments, he said, and asked if I could step in and help with some things. At this time, I had no clue what was going to happen and said yes. Over the next few weeks, Mark became increasingly reliant on my help. He'd ask me to stay late to review invoices, to proofread contracts, to even make calls to contractors, all related to his renovation project. At first, it seemed harmless, a way to show my appreciation for his support. But the requests became more frequent, more demanding, and more uncomfortable. He asked me to use company resources to research building materials, to print out blueprints, to even draft marketing materials for his side hustle on company time. All of this I took a picture of and archived on the side to make sure I was not going crazy. I'd hesitate, feeling a growing sense of unease. "Mark, I'm not sure if I should be doing this on company time," I'd say. "It feels a little unethical." He'd brush it off with a laugh. "Come on, David, don't be such a stickler. It's just a few small favors. Besides, I'm the boss. I'm giving you the green light. And think of it as a learning opportunity. You're getting exposure to new skills, new industries. It's all valuable experience." He also started to ask me to look into the books. He didn't have the accounting expertise that I did. It was easy to look over what was being done on the side, and that's when I started to get red flags. It all seemed wrong and a setup. His support for that first issue was the only reason that I continued. His words were always carefully chosen, designed to prey on my insecurities, my ambition, and my desire to be a team player. He was masterfully playing on the emotions resulting from the promotion denial. I'm sure now he knew what he was doing. Gradually, I found myself dedicating more and more time to Mark's side hustle, neglecting my own responsibilities, and feeling a growing sense of resentment. I was being used, exploited, and I didn't know how to stop it. I was afraid of losing my job, of jeopardizing my career, of proving Mark right, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve the promotion. One evening, as I was staying late, reviewing invoices for his renovation project, Mark walked into my office, his face flushed, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "David," he said, his voice low and conspiratorial, "I've got a proposition for you. A big one." My heart sank. I knew, instinctively, that whatever he was about to suggest would cross a line, a point of no return. "Because you are the best and I trust you more than anyone else. I'm sure he will say something that will change my life forever." Mark's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. "A proposition for you. A big one." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, a sense of foreboding that told me I was about to cross a line I couldn't uncross. The line was coming into view, and it was closer than ever. I tried to sound casual, to project an air of professionalism I certainly didn't feel. "What did you have in mind, Mark?" He leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if we were about to discuss some top-secret operation. "Look, David, I know you've been helping me out with the renovation project, and I really appreciate it. You've got a knack for numbers, a keen eye for detail. You're a lifesaver, man." He paused, letting the compliment sink in before continuing. "But the truth is, this project is complicated. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of expenses, a lot of creative accounting." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Creative accounting?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Mark waved his hand dismissively. "It's nothing illegal, David, don't get me wrong. It's just maximizing deductions, optimizing tax liabilities, you know? The kind of stuff that makes accountants like you so valuable." He was testing the waters, gauging my reaction, probing to see how far he could push me. I knew I should shut it down, walk away, report him to HR, but the fear of losing my job, of confirming his doubts about my potential, kept me rooted to the spot. "What exactly are you asking me to do, Mark?" I asked, my voice tight. He smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes. "I need someone I can trust to manage the finances for this project. Someone who can keep track of the income and expenses, ensure everything is properly documented, and, well, let's just say, make sure the numbers look good." He paused again, giving me the meaningful look once more. The look that told me he had other reasons for asking me to help. "It's a lot of responsibility, David," he continued, "but I know you're up to the task. And the rewards? Well, let's just say I'm prepared to compensate you handsomely for your discretion." He was offering me a bribe, a chance to supplement my meager salary with a hefty chunk of under-the-table cash, all in exchange for my complicity in what was clearly a fraudulent scheme. The choice was clear. I could maintain my integrity, risk losing my job, and potentially face professional repercussions. Or I could sell my soul, compromise my values, and become an accomplice to Mark's illegal activities. I felt nauseous, sick to my stomach. I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't participate in something that was not only unethical, but potentially illegal. But how could I refuse without arousing his suspicion, without making myself a target? I stalled for time. "Mark, I appreciate the offer, but I need to think about it. It's a big decision, and I need to consider the implications for my family, my career, everything." He nodded, his expression unreadable. "Of course, David. Take your time. But don't take too long. This opportunity won't last forever." I left his office, my mind racing, my heart pounding. I knew I needed to find a way out, to extricate myself from this mess without jeopardizing my livelihood or my freedom. The pressure was immense, the stakes were high, and I felt like I was walking a tightrope, one wrong step away from falling into the abyss. Back at my desk, I started researching whistleblower protection laws, documenting every interaction with Mark and compiling evidence of his suspicious activities. I needed to be prepared, to have a plan in place, in case things went south. That evening, as I was working late, trying to catch up on my neglected responsibilities, Mark stopped by my desk, his face etched with worry. "David, can you come to my office for a minute? There's something I need to show you." I followed him to his office, my senses on high alert. He closed the door, then turned to face me, his expression grim. "Look, David, I need to be straight with you. Things things are getting complicated with the renovation project. He then proceeded to tell me a story about a contractor who had skipped town with a large sum of money, leaving him with unpaid bills, incomplete work, and a looming deadline. He was desperate, he said, facing financial ruin, and he needed my help to find a solution. I know this is a lot to ask, David, he said, his voice pleading, but I'm really in a bind. I need you to help me adjust the books, make some of these expenses disappear so I can get this project back on track. He was no longer offering me a bribe. He was begging me for a favor, appealing to my sense of loyalty, my compassion, and my desperation to keep my job. This is illegal, Mark, I said, my voice shaking. I can't do this. I won't do this. His expression hardened. Come on, David, don't be like that. I thought we were friends. I thought I could count on you. What about all those times I stuck my neck out for you? What about that promotion I said I would give to you? Are you going to throw it all away just because of some stupid numbers? And I knew it all along. It was now or never. Update. Mark's plea hung in the air, a toxic blend of desperation and manipulation. He dropped the pretense of mentorship, the charade of friendship, revealing the true nature of our relationship, a power dynamic built on exploitation and fear. Think about it, David. He pressed, his voice losing its earlier warmth, replaced by a hard edge of steel. Think about your family, your mortgage, your kids' future. Can you really afford to turn your back on me? Can you really afford to lose your job? He was threatening me, plain and simple, and the realization sent a cold shiver down my spine. The situation had escalated beyond a simple ethical dilemma. It was now a full-blown crisis, a battle for my livelihood, my integrity, and perhaps even my freedom. I forced myself to remain calm, to maintain a poker face despite the turmoil raging inside me. I need time to think about it, Mark, I said, my voice as steady as I could manage. This is a big decision, and I need to consider all the angles. He nodded slowly, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. Don't take too long, David, he warned. Time is running out, and I need to know I can count on you. I left his office, feeling like I'd just escaped a close encounter with a predator. The air in the hallway felt thick with unspoken threats, and every glance from my colleagues seemed to carry a weight of judgment. I knew they sensed something was wrong, that the atmosphere in the marketing department had become increasingly toxic, but they were too afraid to speak out, too worried about jeopardizing their own careers. I retreated to my desk, desperately trying to focus on my work, but my mind was racing. I replayed the conversation with Mark, dissecting his words, searching for any clues about his next move. I knew he wouldn't take my refusal lightly. He was desperate, cornered, and capable of anything. That evening, I contacted Mr. Davies, my lawyer, and relayed the details of Mark's proposition and his thinly veiled threat. Mr. Davies listened intently, then advised me to take immediate action. David, this has moved beyond ethical concerns to potential criminal activity. You need to protect yourself. Document everything. Avoid any further contact with Mark outside of work, and prepare to present your evidence to the authorities. I asked him if I should resign, to remove myself from the situation entirely, but he advised against it. Leaving now would look suspicious, David. It would also deprive you of the opportunity to gather more evidence and build a stronger case. Stay put, play it cool, and let us handle the legal aspects. The next few days were a masterclass in walking on eggshells. Mark became increasingly watchful, constantly checking in on me, asking about my progress, and subtly pressuring me to make a decision. He'd stop by my desk multiple times a day, offering coffee, making small talk, and casually reminding me of the opportunities that awaited me if I chose to cooperate. He also began to micromanage my work, scrutinizing every task, questioning every decision, and making veiled threats about my performance. He'd find fault with minor details, criticize my reports, and even suggest that I might be losing my edge. It was a calculated attempt to undermine my confidence, to make me feel vulnerable, and to remind me of his power over my career. One afternoon, as I was leaving work, I noticed someone following me. A man in a dark suit, keeping a discreet distance, but always within sight. I couldn't be sure, but I suspected it was someone hired by Mark, a private investigator, or perhaps even someone more sinister. The realization sent a jolt of fear through me. I was being watched, tracked, and potentially targeted. I was alone in this fight, and the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. I varied my route home, taking different streets, changing trains, and constantly scanning my surroundings. I knew I couldn't let paranoia consume me, but I also couldn't afford to be complacent. I was playing a dangerous game, and I needed to be prepared for anything. That night, I received a cryptic email from an anonymous address. The subject line was simply, "Think carefully, David." The body of the email contained a single sentence. Your family would be very disappointed to see you make the wrong choice. The threat was clear, chilling, and deeply personal. They knew about my wife, my kids, my life outside of work. They were willing to use my loved ones to pressure me, to force me into compliance. I contacted Mr. Davies immediately, relaying the details of the email and the suspected surveillance. He advised me to file a police report and to take extra precautions to protect my family. He also assured me that he was working to expedite the legal process to bring this nightmare to a swift and decisive end. As I sat in the dark, staring at the empty screen, I knew that the time for careful planning, for subtle maneuvering, was over. The situation had spiraled out of control, and I was running out of time. I needed to make a choice, a final, irreversible decision that would determine not only my future, but the safety and well-being of my family. The pressure was immense, the stakes were higher than ever, and I had no idea what awaited me on the other side. But I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't back down. I couldn't let Mark win. It was time to fight back. Final update. The anonymous email was the final straw. It was no longer just about my career, my integrity, or my sense of justice. It was about protecting my family, safeguarding them from the reach of Mark's increasingly desperate and dangerous actions. I spent that night reviewing every piece of evidence I had gathered, meticulously organizing my files, and preparing a detailed statement for the authorities. I knew that the next day would be a turning point, a moment of truth that would determine the course of my life. The following morning, I arrived at work with a newfound sense of resolve, a steely determination that pushed aside the fear and uncertainty. I walked directly to Mark's office, bypassing his secretary, and barged in without knocking. Mark looked up, startled, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "David, what the hell? Can't you see I'm in a meeting?" I ignored his protests, closing the door behind me and turning to face him, my eyes blazing with anger. "I know everything, Mark," I said, my voice low and steady. "I know about the creative accounting, the stolen funds, the threats to my family. I know about it all, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." Mark's face paled, his carefully constructed facade crumbling before my eyes. "What are you talking about, David? I don't know what you mean." I stepped closer, holding out a USB drive containing all the evidence I had collected. "This is for you and your team. But if you try and threaten me again, I will send it to the police." He knew he was caught. The bravado, the manipulation, the carefully constructed lies all dissolved, leaving behind a desperate, cornered man. "What do you want from me, David?" He pleaded, his voice trembling. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice unwavering. "I want you to resign from this company, to leave my family alone, and to never contact me again. If you do any of that, then I will let all of this go." Mark started crying. I wasn't moved, though. I then left and took the day off to make sure I was mentally in the right place for everything that was happening. The investigation started soon after I was able to turn everything to the right hands, and everything went according to plan. Days turned into weeks as the investigation played out. The details were leaked by those investigating Mark, and then the truth came out. His side hustle was a way to pay off a lot of gambling debt to the local loan shark. His problems came from the money he owed, and from not being able to solve it. That would make a lot of sense. After a month, I was able to get word. Mark would resign, and I had to agree to not speak a word. After all the advice I was given, I knew this was the right choice for me to do. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. The weight of it all lifted over time. For what it was worth, it made me feel happy. It was the right choice for my life, and that's what mattered in the end. "All right, David," I thought to myself. "Time to move on. But to where? What to do?" It would take a while, but at least the most important thing, what was best for me, was figured out. And that's what this story has been about.